Thank you. We now go to Ms. Lofgren for her round of questioning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I've listened to this testimony and the questions, a couple of things come to mind. First, what we're looking at, and you and I have talked about, is relief for design patents in automobiles. It has nothing to do with utility patents. I just thought it was important to note that. And then as to adequate disclosure, I remember when we were talking about this in the 1990s, a situation where a nonprofit had put on like page 25 of their disclosure, if you've read this far, we'll give you $1,000. And no one collected the $1,000. So it's not really, most of these are not meaningful disclosure. I just think it's important to go back to 1998. Only the ranking member and I were here at that time on what we were trying to do with the DMCA. And at the time, we were concerned, and I think rightly so, that there was theft of copyrighted material, songs, movies, and the like. And the protection that was being advanced was to preclude hacking in to that copyright protected material with TPMs. And I was for that. I thought that was a good idea because that piracy was improper and wrong, and this was a way to solve it. At the time, though, I remember raising the issue, what if these TPMs are going to be used to protect non-content? You know, and we ought to address that. And we didn't come to an agreement on that. The compromise was to have the Copyright Office revisit this periodically for relief should that occur. And I think it's been pretty clear that process has not worked perfectly well. In order for them to pay attention to something, there has to be a huge stink in the country. For example, the monopolies on cell phones, people were upset about it. We had a hearing about it, so finally they dealt with that. Other monopolies, you know, we didn't do TPM so monopolies could control products. That was never the intent. So I think the process didn't really work as we've intended, and the process has to do with the lack of scope as well as tools. We left the tool part out when we did the DMCA, and so I guess the question is, and maybe Professor, you could address this, could we craft a measure that allows for tools to disable TPMs when the TPMs are being used not for content protection as was intended, but to promote essentially monopolies through products? Is there a way to do that? And then the other thing is cybersecurity. Is there a way to narrowly define an exemption for cybersecurity? Because that would be very helpful for society at large. And by the way, I think would help reform the CFAA, which Congressman Sensenbrenner and I tried to do a number of years ago. We didn't get any traction, but the misuse of the CFAA for legitimate researchers continues to be a problem. Can you suggest ways that we could narrowly craft a change that would still protect content holders?
Thank you so much for the question. I'm a little reluctant to try to start drafting statutory language on the fly. But I think the point you raise is a really important one, and I think that the previous proposals about creating new statutory exemptions for repair purposes go a long way to limiting the scope of Section 1201 beyond the kind of entertainment content that was originally Congress's goal to protect. And I completely agree with your kind of recounting of that story. There are existing statutory exemptions in Section 1201 that I think can serve as a useful model. They are very narrow. I would like to see some of those expanded. They go to encryption research, security testing, There's a law enforcement exemption, and I think looking at the existing language can be a helpful model for a repair exemption and also for addressing some of those cybersecurity concerns that you
At the time that we wrote it, we weren't really envisioning the Red Hat movement that we see today and the utility that that has provided for more secure software. And we did the best we could, but it was 1998 and a lot of things have changed since then. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired, but I'm hopeful that we can address this issue, protect the content that we always wanted to protect, but let people own the things they thought they owned instead of finding out that it's only a lease. I yield back.
I think